attracted by, what builds an audience for a media product, is fear or pity. And those are the two things which he thought galvanises people. That's what people are looking for when they go to the theatre or they read something in a newspaper, fear or pity. And the interesting thing about the vaccine story is you have both. You've got the pity, you see those, the children of Jodie, who I pointed out, and those mother and child vignettes, which are absolutely marvellous for newspapers, because there's a kind of iconic thing of the mother and the child, and particularly children who've got grievous neurological problems. So you've got the pity, but then you've got the fear. And for media products, vaccine scares, particularly in the UK, where we don't have the requirements you have in Canada and also the United States that children have to be vaccinated to get into school, we had the fear of the vaccine, which sold a lot of media products quite cheap material, I have to say. You don't actually have to do a great deal of work to write down somebody saying, you know, I gave my child the MMR and then they went on to develop autism, photograph mother and child, put down what they say, get expert, blah blah blah. You could do it in half a day, and it's a very cheap and cheerful story. But then you get two bangs for your buck, because what we then got was a collapse in vaccination rates and outbreaks of measles. So we then get another cheap story, measles outbreaks. Your child is at risk from measles. Another great story. So you get two stories for the price of one, or in fact, two stories really for the price of almost nothing. So it worked very well, and in terms of selling media products, as I'm sure you all know, the purpose of them, because it's a great debate we could have, is what is the purpose of a TV news bulletin or a newspaper? It's to sell that media product. I mean, it's a business fundamentally, and vaccine scares are ideal from that point of view. Then that November back in 2004, the same year that my first story appeared, I did a television programme. I have to say it was great. It was another one of the great experiences of my life. Was reporting and mostly producing an hour-long television programme. If you ever get to do it, it is, I don't know, it is a really, really interesting experience. It's interesting in a number of levels. I mean, I remember one day when I was like in the office and I was shaving to go out and do pieces to camera, typing my pieces to camera, dealing with the lawyers, and it was just great. I mean, it was like being on a game show, and I could probably talk for a long time about the difference between working in print, what we call print these days, and television. The short part of it, I mean, you know, some people may want to lynch me, but the short part of it, the short account is that the thing about newspapers is you don't really have to know anybody. You don't really need contacts. You don't really need to be of a particular social class or background or anything to get a job on a newspaper. If you understand what it is that drives a newspaper, and what really drives the sharp end of a newspaper is the desire of the news editor, or whatever you call the news editor. You may call it a news editor, we call them news editors. The desire of the news editor to see their children grow up. That is fundamentally at the heart of it all. And news editors, people working on news desks, what they want is a good supply of stories, of well-written, properly researched stories that they can use coming through the system. If you're doing it daily, they want it coming through daily. If it's weekly, they want it coming through. Because they don't want to be sitting there, you know, till God knows when, trying to get stuff together, having to rewrite the reporter's copy. They want to go and see their children. That's what they want. The people at the top, the editors, the managing editors, the editors-in-chiefs, well, they just go. They just go home, you know, and have the paper sent round by taxi if they have to. But it's the people at the absolute heart of the news production cycle who want to see their children. And on that basis, anybody can get a job in a newspaper if they can satisfy that need. And it's not necessarily to get big stories on the front. It's to keep the ultimate goal is to keep the marginal story out of the paper. It's the story the news desk does not want to run. And if you can deliver copy that keeps the crap out of the paper, news desks will love you, and you will get a job. Television is different. Television to me, I mean, I have to say, and you'll probably hate me for this, television to me is so easy and so much fun that pretty much anybody can do it. A friend of mine in London, he is a bit of a wheeze, bit of a patronising wheeze. He got a couple of people from prison. He went to a prison and recruited a couple of people from prison to work on his television, in his television production company, which to me tells you that you don't need people with integrity and you don't need people with any particular skill, and they'll still do very well as associate producers in television. And so to get a job and keep a job in television, you need social skills, you need emotional intelligence, you need to be able to sit and smile and be really friendly towards somebody you want to kill. You know, I have to say, with views like my own, I had a lot of trouble with producers, because producers, they don't really want reporters at all. A lot of resent reporters. Everybody hates the person who gets to be on the telly, and they don't. So television is very different, but nevertheless I did make this television programme, and it did, and the TV programme was essentially about the fact that Wakefield had his own vaccine that he wanted to promote and test in his own lab, completely contradicted everything he'd ever said. There wasn't any measles virus in these children. It was all